Should you be considering buying a new home in the winter? Hey Rhonda, how are you?
Hey Melissa, doing excellent on this cold winter day.
So I have had a lot of calls recently about, is it a good time to buy a home during the winter in Alaska? And so I would love to chat with you today about what the pros and the cons are when it comes to buying a home in the wintertime. So what are we seeing right now in end of November 2023? We only have 32 days till the end of the year. So what are we seeing right now with mortgage interest rates to start with?
Yeah, to start with, we are seeing a nice little improvement on the interest rates. Little bit of chatter out there about the Fed's not raising them anymore and perhaps positioning themselves to consider maybe even a little bit of drops. And so I've seen a lot of activity picking up with the pre-qualifications. And what I'd just like to point out real quick is, once that activity picks up, then that's going to be that much more competition out there looking at the same homes that you are. And so I'd really, really strongly encourage doing something sooner than later, because as they drop and more people come into the market, you're going to have a lot more competition, and that's going to increase the home prices. But buying in the winter, yeah, some people talk about that it's, a lot more difficult and everything. And the biggest comment I hear is, I don't know what's under that snow in the yard. And I'd like to point out a couple of things though that we've heard over the years. One of them is, when you pull up to that driveway of your new potential home, then you can see, what that driveway looks like in the winter. We have a lot more winter than we do summer. So is it really steep, or is it nice and level? Do you have a place to plow or shovel or snow blow the snow out of your driveway? Or is there not enough yard there to do that and you're going to have it hauled away? Or what does the snow pile up on top of the roof look like? Is it, a flat roof and you're going to have to get up there and shovel? Or is it steep enough to let that snow fall off of it? Another thing I ask clients to kind of pay attention to is to look for maybe some waves in the snow on the roof that could, be an indicator that you're going to want to get up into that attic and make sure everything looks good up there. Or even icicles hanging down. And that could be a sign of heat loss, right? I know in my own house, there's a certain corner right by my garage and my front door entry. And where that valley is on my roof, the snow piles up in front of my door, and it is a pain to keep clear so people can get in and out in the winter time. So those are some things you can see. Another thing that people have noticed is, you can see what the house kind of feels like in the middle of the winter when it's cold. What's that thermostat set at? Did it have to get turned up really high to make it feel cozy? That could mean you're going to have higher heating bills or utility bills. You'll get to walk through and see if there's any kind of cold spots in the house or whether it's all nice and warm and cozy. You'll be able to tell, is there a fireplace or a wood stove or some other kind of heating source? Do you need to have that on in order for it to feel cozy? So there's a lot, I think, that you can tell about a home, a lot more that you can tell about a home in the winter months than in the summer. And what's underneath that snow out there is dirt. You can do what you want to with the dirt once the snow is gone. And it may be a beautiful lawn, or it may be dirt. It may be something you need to replace, but that's very minor compared to all the different things you're going to find out about a home in the winter months.
Well, and it's also true because when I'm taking buyers out, one of the things in the summer and the fall they ask for is, what are the heating bills? And of course, during the summer and the fall, the gas bill is much different than it is in the winter. That's why I love that new property disclosure that's required for all sellers to complete, that gives the average of the utility. And you as a buyer can actually call and get that information from the local gas company. You can call and say, hey, I'm considering purchasing this property. Can you give me the highs and the lows? Because when you walk into a house in the winter, one of the first things I recommend to my clients is let's walk towards the windows and put your hand near the window. And if you can feel cold air coming in, your house is going to be a little challenging to heat because the cold air should not be coming in the house. And what I love about purchasing a home in the winter is a lot less competition. It's been that way forever. It has been that way forever. I actually got my license in November back in 2017, and I started back as a real estate agent in Alaska in 2017, and I started selling properties in the winter. And what I loved about that is that there's a difference in the time that you actually get to spend in the property, because we don't have that showing frenzy. So you actually can spend 30, 45 minutes in the property. Home inspectors do the same job in the winter as they do in the summer. The only thing they can't do is do the drones up to look at your roof. However, by looking up in the attic, oh my gosh, they can tell a lot about what's going on with your roof. The seller should actually be able to tell you the age of the roof. If not, you can, have your agent or me as your agent look back and see the history of the property and see if we can figure out when the roof was replaced. But that's really the only thing. And like Rhonda said about the yard, normally when I work with buyers and close on properties, we have a cleanup team. So we do what we call as a closing gift. We give out a spring cleanup so that it's like a $250. So when they close on the house, then they can call Morgan sometime in late April, early May, and have him come and clean up. Because again, the seller doesn't oftentimes mean to leave things at the property. They just forgot those things are outside, and then they got covered up by the snow. And with 39 to 50 inches of snow this year so far, that's now compacted into ice, there's no way we're gonna go dig that stuff out. So again, just those few little things that you need to think about. I love the fact that mortgage interest rates have stayed steady and maybe going down a little bit. And I do agree with Rhonda. If rates go down, we're going to have a flood of buyers and competition is going to get fierce again. What happens when we have competition, Rhonda? We see multiple offers, right? And what do we oftentimes see? Buyers tend to what? Have to pay more for the house than the list price.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I've seen it pick up just these last couple of weeks. It's like just that little tiny spark of news out there is really creating that new activity happening. And so people that have been just kind of in the background waiting are starting to gear back up again. So just my encouragement is, let's do this now while you can't go back and change your price. You can go change your interest rate later on, but you can't change the price that you paid for the home. So let's get in now before it gets crazy, and you can tell a lot more about your home in the wintertime. And then you have more time to look at it and make some decisions instead of being so rushed. So sense of urgency going on here.
Well, and the great thing is that usually December, January, and February are a little bit slower traditionally, always in Alaska, because there's a lot of stuff going on in December, January, and February anyway, and people travel out, people go for holidays, all those kinds of things. So what's great about having a house on the market, you typically have very serious buyers looking, and buyers that are well qualified. Also too, as a buyer, you're not having as much competition, and like I said, you get more time in the home. You get to actually spend time looking at the property instead of having a 15-minute showing time when the market was crazy and there was 30 showings in a day and every buyer got 15 minutes. You can't tell much about a house in 15 minutes. So if you're thinking about buying, is it a good time to buy in the winter? We just listed all the pros. What would be the con of not buying in the winter is you wouldn't have a new home come up in spring. You'd be in that spring frenzy again. In the spring, we always see a frenzy. We see more listings come on the market and we see a lot more buyers. So consequently, when there's more buyers, there's more competition, which means that you typically end up paying more either in the sales price or the closing costs. You have to pay all your closing costs. Oftentimes in December, January, and February, there's a little bit more wiggle room in negotiation. Movers do move people in the winter, so you don't have to be afraid of that. So if you're thinking about making that move and you haven't gotten pre-qualified, I'd urge you, hop on to RhondaJohnson.net, hit the Calendly link, schedule a time to talk with her. She'll either call you on the phone or meet you just like this. That way you can get your ducks in a row and get yourself pre-qualified. In this market, it's still what we consider a seller's market. So it is not going to work to submit an offer without a pre-qual letter. A seller typically really isn't even going to consider your offer. So you do need to get all your ducks in a row. You need to talk with Rhonda and figure out exactly how much money do you want to spend on all your down payment and closing costs, and how much money do you want to spend a month, and then we can start shopping. So anything else, Rhonda?
Well, and right now there just is some really good buyer incentives too with lenders. Like we have the 1% interest rate buy down to kind of help bridge that gap between interest rates now and what they might go to in the future. So you get to take advantage of that right now. So there's some interesting loan products out there trying to help with affordability for the home buyers. So we want to make sure that we're grabbing any of those incentives that we can. And as these rates come down and the market shifts, then we're going to see those incentives go away as well. So I think that this is just a really great time to get out there and look at making that purchase.
Okay, so if you have any questions, at the end of this video is the contact information for both Rhonda and myself. We do answer your emails, we do respond to text messages, and we do accept phone calls. And like I said, Rhonda and I both have a Calendly link on our website so you can schedule times to chat with us and get started on that home buying journey. So, time to be thinking about getting out there and buying, even in the winter months, way more pros than there are cons. So, get in touch with Rhonda and let's get you on the path to home ownership. So we'll see you next week, Rhonda.
All right, see you next week.